May meeting of the Executive Board of Manhattan Community Board 4. We are live streaming this and recording this and doing this by Zoom because even though the state of New York is back open, we have not been told to meet in person again yet. So for any members of the public who are out there, thank you for joining us. We have a couple of changes to the agenda before we get started. Item number 1 about the zoning for accessibility text amendment letter is being removed from the agenda because no one's seen the letter yet. That will be taken up at full board a week from Wednesday. We are adding 2 items for discussion. One is a proposal from, is it Chelsea Land Use?
Chelsea Land Use.
For a planning
Yes.
fellow. And the other
Yeah.
is a discussion. I received a phone call from Related about the vessel and I want to update y'all. So we're going to move to what is listed as item number 2 on the agenda, which is from Clinton Hell's Kitchen Land Use and Transportation, a letter about federal funding for Dyer Avenue, et cetera, et cetera. Christine.
Yes, hello everyone. So we have been made aware that as part of the infrastructure bill, there is a companion bill which will be introduced, which is intended for those communities which were generally separated by highways. A good example we all know about is the Cross Bronx Expressway. And the idea is to, generally those highways were installed into low-income communities. And the idea would be to have a specific transportation grant that is dedicated to those areas and that would be used to reconnect the 2 sides of those highways. So we and the Land Use Committee have voted on a letter to discuss with our elected officials how Dyer Avenue, which is the approach to the Lincoln Tunnel, is really a very, very good example of what happened there. Robert Moses took the neighborhood, cut it in half, displaced 500 families, and essentially created a no man's land around the entrances. And we'd like to discuss with our elected how to make sure that the law is written in a way that could include Dyer Avenue. Obviously, the grant will be a next phase, assuming that the law is passed. Then you would have to submit grants and be selected. And the purpose of that would be to create platforms as well as install parks on those parcels on land which are below 37th Street, between 37 and 30th Street. Those parcels of land are in the Hell's Kitchen South Community Plan, but they are not included in the Port Authority Plan, which stops at the south at 37th Street. So that would be a complement to the Port Authority Plan. Understood that if we were going to get the grant would be probably funneled through the Port Authority, and with the Port Authority, we would develop those parcels in parks and bridges. So the letter you have in front of you is essentially saying that, and saying that we think this is a good, we are a good candidate, and we would like to have a meeting with the elected official, which are Gillibrand and Schumer, to discuss their, their plans and put that on their radar and really kind of advance the concept before it becomes law.
You're on mute,
Christine, does it make sense to add Nadler and Maloney?
Yeah, Jerry Nadler is on the copy there.
Okay, but what about Carolyn?
Yeah, Maloney would be fine, yes, as
Okay.
well. We should.
So JD asked me to speak from land use. Christine, that's a great letter. There's a few factual errors I'll shoot to you to correct. And the clear thing is that it is the program that gets established. And when we spoke to Congressman Nadler's office, they made it clear that they will not have any input onto how things get allocated. There'll be a program established. There'll be an application process once it gets established, and the infrastructure bill can fund the program. So this is a very early step in a long period of time, but we do believe it is a perfect candidate for that.
Betty?
Hi. This is a wonderful letter, Christine. It's dear to my heart. And I have a few little picky edits and typo things that, how about, can I give that to you tomorrow?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have questions or comments? Marty?
I just wanted to say, I'll try and email you also. I had a couple of comments about the first paragraph,
Okay, good.
but all the praise goes along with it.
Okay. Jesse, we have to vote this out, right?
Yes, you do, because it's a joint
Right,
committee
okay.
letter.
So I'll entertain a motion if someone wants to make one.
Wait, Lowell,
So moved.
Oh, okay, hang on. Yes, Jesse.
Yes, he wants to say something.
Yes, I got it. Jesse?
I just wanted to clarify because a number of people joined by phone on the attendees section. If you've joined before, since the meeting has started, or after Lowell introduced the meeting, if you want to speak on any of these items, you need to press *9 to raise your hand, and *6 is to unmute yourself. But *9 is the way of what we would notice that you are looking to speak on any of these items.
Thank you, Jesse.
And I want to thank Dale for helping me with that letter, obviously.
All right, no one's raised their hand in the audience. No one else has any comments here. Now I'll entertain a motion.
So moved to adopt the letter.
I saw a second from Betty. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Mike Noble?
Okay, aye,
Thank you.
okay.
That's unanimous. All right, we'll move on to what is now item number 2. The Chelsea Land Use Committee wants a planning fellow, Paul and Betty.
Wait, clarification. This is coming out of this and then going to
Full board.
full board, right? Okay.
Yes.
Full board next week.
But it'll be listed under exec as a joint letter from land use and transportation.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Betty, Paul, you want someone?
Paul, why don't you take the lead?
All right. And I'm going to deflect to Kit. No, I'm kidding. So this, as we know, planning fellows are something the community board has done in the past. I think Hell's Kitchen Land Use is looking at one for issues on linen and trash interior to buildings. This particular fellow application came forward because in our conversations about the conversions of distressed properties into affordable housing, it was raised at the committee to question whether other places had done this, other cities or states or countries, and if so, what best practices could we identify to make it a better process here in New York. Betty and I each reached out to city and state officials to find out if there were any precedents established in terms of a comprehensive policy on converting distressed properties, and there's no identifiable comprehensive plan in place. So after 9/11, there were a lot of conversions downtown, but there was no set policy and guidelines on how to handle this through a zoning process. So Kit and Viren are looking to take on a fellow to investigate this and put together some zoning guidelines and recommendations for converting distressed properties, and looking at how that can best be done. It goes hand in glove with the conversion recommendations and policies we had written and approved as a board. This will take it to the next level and get some more technical support in place to support that policy. I don't know that we actually have to vote on this per se. I just wanted to share with the executive committee because we have had fellows in the past, and I just thought everybody should know that we're applying for a fellow for this program.
Anyone have any questions? Jessica.
Thank you. I think it's a great idea. I know at I guess it was a housing meeting, I think that Joe, you spoke about just the scope of how much would actually be available in terms of these conversions, in terms of funding, and that it's not really that many projects that are likely to come to our district, and also the timing of that. Or maybe I misunderstood, but.
At Housing, we had a report, a presentation from Ted Houghton from Gateway Housing, who's been the organization that's promoting this citywide. And in a session that happened where there was presentation prior, I guess Maria attended that one, right, Maria? Where it was clear that the funds that were available would probably be about 4 or 5 projects citywide. So he said we should remember always publicly to temper our expectations. It doesn't mean that we can't use a fellow to come up with a good program, but right now it's not going to be that large an effort as we initially believe there would be.
And maybe just additionally, what's the timing of that as compared to when I think a fellow's great, and I'm sure there's plenty for them to dig in on. I would just want to make sure that this feels like a very detailed scope of work, and that, you know, it aligns with the timeline that will be available.
When is the fellow available, Paul? I don't know in terms of the timing. Is it next year or is it this year?
It's this year, so they would be starting this academic fall, so they would be coming in September.
So then Jessica, it probably would align, because by the time that kind of program moves ahead, it's going to take, if there's something's passed in June, it would take a while to get regulations in place and then a moment to move it ahead. So, yeah.
And I also think of this as something, it might address today's issue where we can maybe convert 4 or 5 properties, but you know, after 9/11, there was no policy in place. After a global pandemic, there was no policy in place. So this could be something that could be looked at 4, 5, 6 years for the next global crisis that hits our community.
I would just also orient it more toward the zoning part of it as opposed to the technical part of it, because the zoning is the thing that will live beyond it. The way things are financed or done are always going to change over a period of time, you know?
Yeah, I had a conversation with Viren about the cost analysis would be more focused on what would sort of be the percentage costs, incremental costs of converting commercial space and the incremental costs of converting hotel space, not specific dollars for today,
Right.
But thinking about, does it make more sense to convert commercial buildings with a 30-foot span from the core, or a hotel with multiple cores running through to supply services to units? So looking at it from that perspective, not like we have $100 million today to spend, how do we spend it? But a budgetary perspective on it.
All right, Marty, I thought I saw your hand.
Yes, thank you. At the end of the second paragraph, first the praise. I appreciated throughout this letter that you included services for the folks that are being served by these by the establishments that we're trying to focus on, and that was a good thing. I was hoping that you could, at the end of the second paragraph, where you say CBS has proposed a framework for the siting of affordable housing, et cetera, that you could bring that services for these folks up, so that you make it even stronger about services. I think that's an important piece of this project. It's
Right.
not just the physical property, but it's the services.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks, Marty.
Anyone else? Questions, comments, thoughts, objections? Not that I expect any. All right. Do I need a vote on that, Jesse?
You do not need to vote on it.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the third item of business, which is added to the agenda. I received a call this morning from Andy Rosen at Related about the vessel. They are planning on reopening the vessel in time for Memorial Day with the following changes. They are requiring all ticketing to be done online in advance, so you can't get tickets at the site. Of course, you can probably do it on your cell phone, but it's got to be done in advance. So they are hopeful that people just won't show up and spur of the moment try and get in. I don't know that that's going to solve any problems. They are tripling the size of their security staff. They have added training. They are adjusting the protocols. They are changing the way they are engaging with visitors. They're going to, I don't know whether that means they're going to say hi and check everyone's mood or whatever when they come in, but that's what they've said. They are partnering with Lady Gaga's Born This Way group. They have a specific campaign called Please Stay, and they will be promoting suicide prevention in conjunction with that group. The one thing that they are doing that I thought was a good idea is that all ticketing must now be done in groups of 2 or more. If you show up alone, you will not be allowed to enter the vessel. It has to be in a group. What that does for Romeo and Juliet, I'm not exactly sure. But
Or those people
otherwise,
who don't have a partner and just want to go.
you will not be allowed to go up to the vessel if you are there alone.
Discrimination.
I'm not
Unless they
sure.
own that last for discrimination purposes.
I'm not sure how that's going to work if you have a single person who shows up and wants to get up there and says, hey, can I join your group? They did look at raising the barriers as we asked them to. I got a little bit of an answer that it created all sorts of technical problems that they were not prepared to address at this point in time. So this is the plan they are going with. I was not asked to sign off on this. I was not asked to approve this, but they kept their promise of coming back to us before they reopened. I told them that I would be bringing this to the exec committee tonight and that I would get back to them tomorrow with our reaction. Judging by the look on the faces I am seeing in front of me, I know what the reaction is. I am probably going to get inundated with press inquiries since I was all over the press after the last fatality. And I will, go along with the sentiment of the board that I am sensing that this does not go far enough. But I will take all of your comments now and incorporate that both with my conversation with Related and with the press. Let's start with Leslie.
Just 2 things, because I'm sure everyone else is going to speak on this maybe more eloquently than I will. But what the number one thing I think you said, I don't know if they made it clear, they were going to engage differently on the ground there with people. What does that mean? Or what do we know what that entails or how that even works into this concern?
I believe what it entails, and I did not get a complete answer on this, but I believe what it entails is that the security staff will be engaging with everyone who enters the vessel through the entrance. And if you grumble or look away, they may pull you aside and not let you climb to the top.
And my second thing, I actually think some of these are really good measures. I'm glad that they're tripling security, if indeed that is the case. But I'm getting the sense from the rest of the group, and understandably so, that nothing short of putting up barriers would suffice, right? I'm just curious about the group.
That is the position the community board has taken twice in the past, Leslie, that nothing short of increasing the height of the barriers would solve this problem.
Right.
And I let Andy know that today, and I will let him know that again tomorrow, and I will let the New York Times know that when they call me.
Yeah, and what Christine said, I'm sorry, I want to think what Christine was saying, what I said. I mean, the single person thing is a little, but that's there.
That's the way they're addressing it. Let's go to Bert next.
Yeah, we all agree on the physical barriers. I want to know, and maybe it's just my own training, what is the specific training they're talking about? Okay, what they're saying they're going to do more training for their security people. What does that mean? What kind of classes are they going to take? What consultants are they bringing in? I want to know that. I think we all want to know that. I don't want to just hear them say we're going to do better training and also more security. Yeah, okay. So where are they going to be stationed? Triple security? What? And the whole property, or by the vessel?
This is specifically for the vessel, and I will ask about the training.
And I also think, though they probably will react negatively to this, you see it on the bridges. If you're thinking of killing yourself, but that's not the language they use, here's a telephone number. Why don't you try this? I don't know, aesthetically where you put it, how you do it. They certainly should have the security people should certainly have that line. Definitely. And, forget about the aesthetics. It should be posted someplace, at least one place, visible on the path directly going to the vessel.
I'm going to go a step further. If you need to print out tickets in advance, it should be on the tickets too.
Very good, Lowell. Excellent, excellent.
This is why we work as a group. Jeffrey.
I think involving outside organizations is very smart. I hope you're able to nuance your critique of that. I'm not sure the Lady Gaga one is the best one to do, but everybody's used to plastic guards right now. Nobody thinks they're attractive, but they're everywhere, including at your elbow in restaurants still. So this is just being related, in my opinion, and really doing nothing to address the core problem, which is a major public safety hazard.
Okay. Betty.
Yeah, I react very strongly to this. I think there should be no reason why they can't put up some kind of clear barrier, the way they did at the NYU library. And I cannot understand what a technical reason would be. I don't know if you can ask them, Lowell, what is so technical about
Part of it was about wind and the way the wind blows off the river, but that was just the story I got. I will dig deeper, Betty.
Okay, thank you.
I purposely did not engage with Andy in depth on any of this because I told him I'd rather come back to him tomorrow after I had the collective wisdom of this group. Paul.
Thank you.
I would echo that. Anything short of barriers. I mean, I appreciate their efforts, extra security, counseling, phone number, all that's great. But I also authorize you to use the term lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig.
Christine.
Yes, I'm reacting very negatively to not a single person. I mean, this is just, this is a police state. I mean, that's not right. And then you need to have the barrier higher. That's it. I mean, it's going to cost money. Yes, that's all they care about. And the rest of it is they are doing all these little things that don't mean much.
Okay, Maria.
I'm curious if you could also find out about how they came to the decision for these ideas or these recommendations, like who was on the task force, what experts? I am curious. And I'm disappointed, to say the least, that related, this is the best they're coming up with. The only one that makes sense to me is that you're not going up on the vessel alone. But even then, like you said, you made that joke about Romeo and Juliet, but I don't know. I just wish I'm just curious about that.
Okay, I will get some answers. Dale.
Hi, sorry, I have spotty internet connection out here. I would just like to point out that you can't jump off the edge, and they charge a lot of money to get up there. And I've joked about this in the past, but I'm seriously reconsidering, maybe we should get some sketches going to just convert the vessel into affordable housing with some double hung windows and some air conditioning sleeves because they can do this. They can clad that sculpture in a way that you can't jump off of it. It's going to be a retrofit and it's going to be super expensive, but they can do it.
Agreed. Mike?
Yeah, well, let me concur with everyone else's comments. I think it's totally unsatisfactory. I'm just curious, Lowell, in speaking to these folks, did they ever mention whether there's been a lawsuit against them, attractive nuisance type thing? I would think that if you had enough of that going on, it would have put a pause on all this, but apparently not.
It has never come up in my conversation. The concept of a lawsuit has never come up in my conversations with them. Quite frankly, putting on my attorney hat for a second, the fact that we are on record twice in letters and all over the press saying anything short of a barrier is insufficient. If I were the lawyer of for representing the family of someone who jumped. It'd be exhibits A, B, and C, or 1, 2, and 3 actually in my lawsuit, that you knew and this was an attractive nuisance and you shouldn't have done this. So yes, they should be aware. I'm sure their lawyers have told them this, but it's never come up in my conversations with them, Mike.
Yeah, because that's, clearly, there is no question about it in my mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Marty.
I went to the Vote New York stuff to look where my early voting site would be, and it comes up with 20 Hudson Yards. And I went to that site, and if you go to 20 Hudson Yards, you get the pleasure of seeing the vessel. The vessel in that image looks like it's clad in reflective glass. It isn't. The reflections are behind the railings, but it gives you an aesthetic sense of what the vessel would look like were there reflective material that were put as a barrier. And yes, it would be expensive. And yes, they would have to engineer for the wind and all that. But everybody else has said there should be a barrier.
Yep. Who hasn't spoken? Kit, you want to weigh in here? I'll get to you, Joe. I see you.
Maria covered my biggest question, which is who did they talk to land at these new policies and procedures? I'd also be curious about, what was their process and what is their process moving forward for reevaluating whether or not, these measures are proactive enough to prevent what I think most of us agree is likely to happen again if they don't have barriers. But yeah, just.
I think that's, Kit, I think that's the reevaluation process. When this happens again, they'll realize they didn't do enough.
Well, hopefully this doesn't happen again.
Right.
But if we ask them that question and this does happen again, at least we can hopefully get on the record of saying you should be on a continuing basis reevaluating whether or not your measures are sufficient.
Okay. Joe?
I think we're being way too polite. They made a $120 million mistake resulting in 3 deaths, right? They've hired a bunch of fancy consultants to give a whole bunch of bullshit and window dressing to create something that says, here's what's going to stop everything. What's going to stop it is barriers. No ifs, ands, or buts. We should be on record again saying just flat out, no number of consultants, training. Security guards cannot be trained to deal with suicidal ideation. That is not the nature of what they ever would do. To say that a single person can't go is so crazy. It just smacks of, it's a vanity project that Steve Ross did. He doesn't want to change, he wants it perfect. Let's say again, flat out, we do not believe any number of consultants or outside organizations is going to make any difference here. The barriers will make all the difference. And when I hear Lady Gaga, that's really like another bit of consultancy to wrap it in something that's pretty. So enough. I really feel as a board, you've said it all, report,
Yeah, Joe, I don't think we're being too nice here. We're being polite to each other in discussing this. There is a consensus here, and I will go back to related with that message very strongly tomorrow. And when the New York Times calls me for a follow-up, that's what they're going to hear. Kit, before I come back to you, Jessica, you're the only one who hasn't spoken.
Thank you. I think everything's been said.
Yeah, I get it. All right, Kit.
We ever asked,
everyone gets one more shot.
we ever asked them to just get rid of it? I realize they won't do it because it costs them $120 million, but it's ugly. I've been on it, not that great an experience. There's a lot of public spaces within walking distance of it that are much, much more enjoyable and have not resulted in multiple fatalities. And we, as a board, just said you should actually just take it down and move it.
Well, the only place they should move it is the bottom of the Hudson River, but.
You have.
It would make a good coral reef structure. You know how they drop the old trains in? It would work quite nicely, actually, out off the South Shore.
Lowell, we have 2 members, 2 hands up in the attendee section, just to clarify. Just to let you know.
All right. Well, let me get the board one more time. I got 3 more hands here, and then I'll go to the public. Dale.
Oh yeah, I also wanted to mention, and again, I'm sorry for my connection. It's really bad tonight. There's been some media, some stories in the press about how Related really exploited there's like a tax abatement package, which was not meant to apply to this specific area, and it was in fact supposed to apply to low income areas. So I wonder if that's like a discussion to take up either by the land use committees or the task force.
Well, I will leave that to the land use people. And I will leave that to people like Joe who were around when this was all first conceived.
Right, but it's also an issue. It's also an issue of, it's an issue of land use abuse, but it's also an issue of equity.
Understood. Not disagreeing with you. My conversation tomorrow with Related is going to focus specifically on these security measures, though, not on. I understand what you're saying, Dale. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think that's a bigger.
I know. I'm just. Just to clarify, I think what I'm proposing is a separate tack, not for you to go in and start unraveling that, but a separate tack to apply pressure to Related on that front.
Okay. Christine.
I still want to go up by myself. I don't want people to stop me from going up by myself. I insist. This is a very good exercise.
Oh my God.
You do all the stairs and you go down. Anyway,
Christine, are you unhappy? Is there something bothering you we need to talk about, Christine? We're all worried about you suddenly that you want to climb up there alone.
Just wants to show off.
Maria, I'm going to let you finish up for the board since this is your wheelhouse.
Well, sort of.
Yeah.
Not clinical social work, but I thought I read an article where the vessel was being closed permanently. Am I mistaken about that?
You are mistaken. They promised to close it until they promised to come back to CB4 before they reopened, and they kept that promise. I didn't like
Doctress also had a satire piece on it, Maria.
Oh yes, there was a satire piece that did run about that. Yes, thank you, Jeffrey.
I believed it.
Yeah, all right. Okay, Jesse, can you bring over? I don't know who our two phone callers are, but
Maria was still speaking, but it didn't come through.
I'm sorry, Maria, were you still speaking? I lost you there for a second.
Yeah, I lost sound, but Jeffrey was saying something when I lost sound. The only other thing I was gonna say, I don't remember, except it's bullshit. If there's no barrier, I was gonna curse even more. Apologies, but yeah, the plan is just,
yeah.
I agree with everything.
The word you used is perfectly appropriate, Maria. Paul, I'm going to take our public members and then I'll come back.
I'm gonna say effing bullshit.
Okay.
Oh, effing, right? That one.
Yeah. All right, Paul, hang on. Jesse, can we take the two phone callers, please?
Yeah, I'll bring them. Their phone, so I'll just let it. They're going to talk. The phone number ending with 290. I'm going to allow you. You're going to give you the ability to unmute yourself.
Could you identify yourself, please?
Hi, it's Alan. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be with you guys in person. So I tell you something. In listening, I just got on, and I'm glad I caught you as you were describing that this was back on the agenda. My heart was beating out of my chest when I heard the letter that you read from Related. And I'm with Joe on this 100%. I don't think, number one, we should be chasing them to ask them, how did you do this? How did you do that? Blah, blah, blah. Who are these and who are these people and how many people you're going to have? Because obviously they went out and found a way to sugarcoat this whole thing. And it's absurd to me that a company that was able to put up how many square feet of buildings on top of a platform has the audacity to say that there's technical difficulties in putting up barriers. The whole thing is absurd. The statement that we should be giving them is that we are not with you on this. We do not accept this. And the consequences are on your head. And and a week before opening, they come to you and they send you this letter and they want you to, say, oh, thank you very much. We're glad that you've come to an agreement on something. They lost 3 people died there. Okay. The whole thing to me is absurd. Not letting one person come in, you have to come in certain groups. Maybe what they should do is have people handcuff each other so that it's more cumbersome. If somebody wants to jump out of the group, the other 3 or 2 people can perhaps hold them back from it. That would save someone's life, not some guard who happens to be looking around and trying to determine whether somebody is looking to jump off or off the ledge there. The whole thing makes me sick. Really, really, really makes me sick.
Alan, just to clarify, this was not a letter from Related. I got a phone call from Andy Rosen.
Okay, I'm sorry. The information that you received as to what they got, I'll correct myself. I'm sorry. I thought it was a letter, but anyway.
No. You can all rest assured I will make our position abundantly clear. You've all heard me get angry before. I will channel that.
I'm saying there was no purpose in asking them how they arrived this, who the people are, who the experts are. There's no reason for it. We shouldn't be like,
I can get that. Alan,
Okay.
I can get that. Alan, I can get that information and make our point at the same time.
We don't need it. What are we going to do with the information? Say, oh, these people aren't the right people, or you should have used somebody else, or we have better people.
Well, Alan, I still would like that information regardless. I don't agree with the plan either, but I would like that information.
But part of it makes us buy into the bullshit. That's the problem.
All right. Guys.
You're buying into the bullshit is right. Exactly.
But Lowell knows how to position that, so we don't have to do.
I can get that. I can get that information without compromising our position at all. If people want that information, I can still get that information. Jesse, we have another phone caller. 207. Please identify yourself.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Carla. This is Carla Fine. Can you hear me?
Carla, you know Alan's on the other phone, right?
I do, but you know, Alan, we have a huge house. But first of all, I wanted to thank this community board for all the work they're doing. This past year, I've had almost 100 Zoom calls where I'm talking about suicide throughout the world, and I do mention what's going on. People are aware of the vessel from India to Italy to South America. They know what's going on in the suicide world. They're very grateful to Community Board 4, and I'm grateful to all of you. My position is the following. When the next suicide happens, and it might be on Memorial Day, I don't know when that will be, will the young people who have been trained to quote unquote help these people, will they receive free mental health for feeling guilty that somebody killed themselves on their watch? Because somebody will, and they will be feeling blame for themselves that somehow they didn't stop it. The second part about what Christine is saying, if there are 2 people, do you really think that the second person will save the first person's life? No, they'll just be in therapy for the rest of their lives for not doing anything. What this is just, I mean, I don't want to repeat whatever it is. This is not based on science, as we've heard. This is not based on any of the suicide experts. This is, I mean, I know Lady Gaga's group, it's great, but this is not the people who determine who jumps. Those are scientists who know everything about barriers. So anyways, I just want to thank you for all of that. And to put this up, it's going to make another huge impact in the world of suicide, because it's an insult. It's really basically an insult to the community board, to the community of suicide people, and it's really an insult. But thank you all for your work. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Carla. All right, let's circle back around. Paul. And guys, I'd like to tie this up if we can.
Two quick points. I'll be in the minority here and say that I actually liked the sculpture of the vessel. I know a lot of people are going to laugh at me, but the important point I want to make, though, is that Lowell, you said that they said they would come back to Community Board 4 before reopening. I don't think making a phone call to you is coming back to Community Board 4. I think they should stand up in front of the entire community and say, we don't want to put up barriers because it's too expensive for us, and that they are embarrassed if there's yet another life lost at this site.
All right. The reason I accepted this, just so you understand, is coming back to the board, is they called me an hour after the third suicide, and that's how we found out about it. So they're following up with what they've done previously in terms of communication. I can ask them to come to full board and present on this. I doubt they will, but we can ask. Marty.
In your for your arsenal of points to make, I am reacting to the training the guards to prevent the next event. And I want to compare that to the reform the police movement that's been going on, which has been exactly the opposite, has been to remove from the responsibility of members in blue carrying weapons from the psychological stuff, and to train or to get trained people to go to emergency calls that require that kind of a training. So what the folks at the vessel are doing is going exactly against that movement of police reform.
Okay. Unless they're hiring a bunch of, social workers to be security guards. You're right, Mark. Yeah. All right. Anyone else on the vessel? I will report back to this group after I speak to Andy tomorrow. Jesse, I can send an email to the exec, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I will report back on that phone call. I will invite them to stand up and take the fire at full board as well.
Lowell, how come you're not writing a letter?
We're already on record about this. I don't know, do we need,
I think we should write, well, I would write it again saying, we reiterate our position. The only way to prevent further suicides is installing barriers, and put them on notice yet again.
All right. Is that the consensus of exec that we should?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, then I'll take Joe's suggestion to not offer suggestion. I'll write the letter. Suggestion to write a letter as a motion. Does someone second the motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed?
So Lowell, I have a question for you. Is that could we at this point, based on the last letter, say, well, we don't want you to open?
Well, I'll come up with a draft, because
I think we should say, we don't want you to open. This is wrong.
that this is insufficient and you should not be reopening with this.
Right.
Yeah,
We should not.
Yeah, I think that's clear, Christine. I think that's clear.
Okay, but I think we should say it explicitly.
Okay, Jesse.
I was just going to say, I think we're already on record, both full board wise and admin letter wise. I think you can do an admin letter and just get it out before before.
Get it out this week. Absolutely.
Oh, sure.
And just have, and we can link the past letters. So therefore it's all.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. I think it'll go out before Friday.
Okay.
All right. That's it for our agenda. Does anyone have any new business or old business? All right, Paul, then Jesse.
I think at one of our previous meetings, we talked about the transition from online to in-person and some sort of hybrid of the two. And you said you were going to want to discuss it at some point. Are you ready to discuss it now? Do you want to wait another month?
I think we need to get some guidance from Gail's office. It is still my intention.
Why don't we put it on the agenda for next month as an actual agenda?
Okay, yeah, and I'll bring it up at Borough Board in June. We need some guidance from them. It is still my thought that we should be doing some kind of hybrid. So I think I agree with you there, but we need some guidance from the borough president's office before we get there. I actually missed something. I didn't give you the chair report.
Well, before you go and do that, can I just comment here that the key being your comment at Borough Board that we can't do it without resources to actually make it happen, because the logistics and the cost to do both, we need another half a dozen people on staff.
We need money to make it. We need money to make it happen. Absolutely. Just very quickly, chair report, and then I'll get to Jesse and to Mike. The Empire Station Complex Working Group is still meeting and not making an awful lot of progress right now, but we're meeting. The Port Authority Bus Terminal Working Group is still meeting. Bert, do you want to say anything quickly about that? Okay, that's still meeting. And the slaughterhouse working group, JD is running and he's not here, so that group is still meeting. So that's it for the chair report. Jesse,
I'll just be quick. It sort of rolls right into what you just talked about. Then thank you, Jeffrey, for highlighting that issue. So I will be very last minute speaking on behalf of Community Board 4 and community boards in general with a number of other community board district managers at tomorrow's City Council Finance Committee meeting about the executive budget. So just so we remember, we had 2 pegs from our budget last fiscal year, and it sounds like those pegs will stay in place this fiscal year. It's a total of somewhere between $10,000 and $12,000. Obviously, comparatively to what other agencies are getting, happening is very little. We're not losing staff. We're not, but it does impact our ability to do things, especially new things such as hybrid meetings and technology and everything along those lines. And so I will be speaking on behalf of that, advocating for those cuts to be restored at least back to what they were before COVID, not to talk about budget increases at all. So that's the other one thing. And then the other thing is I just want to make sure the full board agenda, the draft full board agenda and the draft June committee schedules are in the Dropbox for you guys. Please, please, please take a look at them. Make sure that those are accurate to what you guys are thinking, what the full board will be like and what the committee schedules will look like. Obviously, we can make these changes before Friday, but that's when they go live. And that is about it.
Jesse, when you speak to the city council tomorrow, I think I would tell them about how our attendance has ballooned because of online meetings and we want to maintain them and we want more money.
I will do so.
Mike Noble.
Yeah, I just want to give you an update on the working group. The RFP committee has been meeting every 2 weeks now.
This is the Fulton, Chelsea Elliott, NYCHA working group for anyone who's not paying attention.
Yeah, and this is the subcommittee, the RFP subcommittee, which even though that's gone out, we've done the drafting of it and all. What we've had are a couple of meetings with intended management people, developers, managers. So we had 2 of them online. And we've had another one of our own meetings today. We'll be having another one in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, come the middle of June, 15th and the 16th, there's going to be another round of tenant info sessions. These are online sessions. And during that week as well, we're going to be leading some developers through the Fulton and Elliott Chelsea developments, showing them the ground, showing them apartments and the rest of it. So we've got that in the works.
All right, Mike, I would suggest at full board that you announce the tenant sessions when we get to full board.
Okay, and one other thing, we put it on our the Chelsea newsletter, the resources and upcoming events, the flyer where we're asking residents to apply for the resident review committee, right? So we've got a bunch of those openings coming up, and that application's got to come in by the 25th of June, and about the end of the next month, we should have that review committee in place. And from there, we'll start, actually doing the work. All right.
All right. Thanks for the.
I will probably be on that resident review committee as of today. That's what. Okay.
Congratulations and thank you for the update.
Yeah.
Leslie.
Oh, I have a question about that. Can I?
Oh, you have a question about what Mike was talking about, Christine? All right, go ahead.
Mike, 2 questions. One is, do you have a list of existing developers that are doing this existing job and they are doing it well? So people that are already qualified and ideally you would like to have respond to the RFP?
Yeah, let me just tell you that there's a traditional list that goes out when NYCHA has an RFP to issue, right? They've gone beyond that this time. They've gone sort of nationwide. So including the usual suspects, they now have a whole bunch of people, new people, right? As far as a report card on existing developers and how they're doing, I've been asking for that every single time. And the folks from NYCHA who do keep track of this said that they're working on doing that. They don't do specific, checks, and that sort of thing. But I told them, I said, now that we've got so many of these PAC developments and rad things coming up, we really have to start keeping track, with specific line item responses to issues that were raised in, against these developers and managers.
Mm-hmm.
And they said they're going to try to do that for us. We'll see.
Okay.
But it makes no sense that we're going to be interviewing these people, face to face. That's the whole deal. And we can certainly ask questions at that point.
So the second question, that's good you are doing that. And the second question is, when you want to recruit tenants for the selection, I understand that there was a petition signed by 600 people. And I guess we have a copy of that petition. And it would be so great to have people of that who signed that petition specifically invited to become the selection. So I'm just planting that seed to you.
Yeah, well, first of all, the flyers going up in all the lobbies. Everybody's got an equal opportunity to file that application. And they're not that many openings, I must tell you that. And today, the sentiment was today, all of us who are on the current RFP subcommittee are more or less going to be shoo-ins, all right? Because there's no sense getting somebody involved now who doesn't know what's happening, right? Plain and simple. There will be people, to be sure, other than us, but I mean, for the most part, and we've got to apply as well. That's the whole thing. That was the pitch today. Nobody's applying, even among us. I applied. I finally applied because they asked me to, right? So that's what that's about.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Well, we're trying.
Okay. Sorry, Leslie.
Okay, thanks. Leslie, go ahead.
So I'm going to bring up a topic that I guess we kind of have to sit and think about for a little bit, but I would like to comprehensively and thoughtfully address this as a board. We have had some very violent episodes in our district, violent crimes, many against Asians. It's still happening, many against women, more in the northern part of our CB district than the southern part, but they are extremely violent and disturbing nonetheless. And I would like our board to have some sort of comprehensive letter, thought, response on this. We have had someone, an Asian man whose finger was bitten off, or at least the tip of it. We have had someone who was hit in the head with a hammer. We have had someone just recently was hit in the head with a swung baseball bat. These are very disturbing incidents. And I'm actually surprised. I think we should address this. And I think, and I'll say Hell's Kitchen, but Chelsea to an extent have been forsaken. There was an incident disturbing as well in Brooklyn, and it was anti-Semitic, and it was two young kids, and it was caught on tape and hurling slurs at a Jewish man. The next day, there was Rodney Harrison, who was the chief of police, chief of patrol, and the mayor. Press conference saying, we are going to up patrols here. We're going to divert resources. We're going to take a really close look at that, which I think is the appropriate response, especially when there's a dangerous anti-Semitic or anti-anything hate crime. I want to know, why are we not seeing anyone come to our neighborhood? Why are we not seeing a fraction of that attention, specifically when it's against Asians or Asian women or women in general? Why are we not seeing any of this? And why are we not outraged at this? We have been, when I say we, I'm talking collectively as a community from what I'm hearing, have asked for not an increase in police officers, but just for them to be on the beat, just for them to walk around a bit, just to get out of the cars. We've had no response from NYPD. We've had no response from the mayor's office, and we've had no response from our local electeds. And not to pile on one group or another, I'm just saying, there are other neighborhoods that are getting responses, and I think that's good. It's actually positive. But I think we are ignoring very, very huge issues that are coming up right now. And again, I know this is, sorry to put this as the last item of new business, but something to think about how we want to address this, because I really do think that, like I said, specifically Hell's Kitchen, they're crying out for help from somewhere, from someone. I don't know who or where that is.
I think it's a perfect topic for our social and racial justice working group to bring up. Jesse just took a deep breath, wondering how that's going to blow up.
Guys,
I think it's more
honestly,
of a public safety issue. See, I don't know if it's a
Well,
philosophical.
we don't have, the problem is, Leslie, the problem is we don't have a public safety committee. And we've been funneling all the public safety concerns through that committee because, as you pointed out, most of them have been racially motivated over the last year.
Can I just?
I want to say, I got to say something.
Hang on,
honestly.
Joe, hang on, Jesse first.
I was just going to give some context there. I think they've been also being sent to the housing committee. A lot. The housing committee has been doing a lion's share of it. I will say that.
Let's send it to the housing committee. I'm not opposed to that because Joe seems to want it anyhow.
No, well, I don't know if that's.
No,
Just a little context. I'm not disagreeing with anything that was.
Okay, that's fine.
But just a little bit of context that the housing committee has written a number of letters about a number of public safety issues.
Mm-hmm.
The task force has actually written a lot about the Asian crime and written to the mayor. And I agree with you. The response, I'm not disagreeing with the response, but I'm just saying from the board's perspective, I think we have written, what we do is we write letters. And I think we have written letters. I think if we want to do something more, we can discuss that maybe offline or something. But in terms of what we have held numerous long meetings. We've written to numerous high level officials. We have gotten responses back from the DA's office, from the PD on a number of the task force letters. I'm happy to send those around to everyone. If that is something we want to start doing, we can start doing that. So I just want to give that context.
All right, Joe, do you want to add to that?
Yeah,
I didn't mean to step on your committee.
No, we had 86 people show up at the housing committee and specifically talk about the shelters and specific incidents that are directly related to shelter residents, okay? And one of the things that struck me and the members who were there was pretty heartrending toward the end of people we've never heard from before, ever. Talk about subject to attacks, assault, a woman whose husband has a traumatic brain injury, a doctor, and they were mugged. Another doctor who's on 36th Street, who's been to many meetings, we never heard from him before, and he was mugged not once, but twice. And he watched the people who mugged him go into one of the shelters on 36th. So one of the things I want to say here is that we are suffering not just from hate crimes, but from a horrible rash of mental illness, of people who are not well managed, get good services or supervised. It's a minority, but it's a minority that has transformed the public safety in the streets. And Lowell, I got to tell you, it's not just like an issue to talk about. It was hard to actually sit through this last housing.
I was at your meeting, Joe, I know.
Right. So you saw the parts of it, Lowell, that were brutal toward the end.
Yeah.
Right?
And Lowell, I bring this up not because I don't want to dump it all on housing. I don't think it's right to dump it all. Like, this is a homeless issue. That's not, I'm now switching it to a public safety. You know what I mean? I'm
Again, Leslie, we don't have a public safety committee. If we want to reform as a public safety committee, it's too much to add just to the housing agenda.
Right.
Housing, Health, and Human Services took it up last month, primarily because it was dealing with DHS and relating to the shelters, not because it was a policing issue. Maybe we need a public safety committee and we can talk about it, but we've been funneling those issues to the extent they come relate to the shelters. They've been going to Joe and Maria. To the extent that they relate to, some sort of discrimination, they've been going to the working group. So I'm not sure how else to do that. As Jesse said, what we do is we write letters. A little bit tongue-in-cheek, Leslie, if you want to change the world, run for office. The other thing is, and you said, where are our public officials? I know you all read Phil O'Brien. You can print up your Where's Corey posters and post them in your window. I'm not sure what else we can be doing about this given our role. Christine, then Betty. then
Well,
Bert.
Lowell, I think because of the context today, having a working group on public safety would be a good idea. And you know, whoever wants to participate, 4 or 5 people, it doesn't need to be big, but to think about those things and say, okay, what action can we do? Can we have a letter? Who does it go to? What's the right approach, etc. And thinking about public safety by itself. And I think I agree with Leslie that this needs to be focused right now until we get back to normal with police activity and with a new administration who has a plan for the next X months. We're going to need that.
Okay, I'm going to take what you're saying. Jesse, can we schedule a meeting with the members of exec? Let's add Viren and Katie. Joe and Maria, Christine, anyone else from this group who wants to join, and let's talk about what a public safety working group would look like and what it can do. Can we do that, Jesse?
Yes, we can do that. Can I just add two pieces of information to the context of this conversation? One is that Maria and Joe's committee did issue a letter asking for a very robust meeting with our elected officials about these issues. It was going way beyond homeless shelters, right? This is when the Hell's Kitchen Neighborhood Coalition came. So that's outstanding. That is an outstanding request that has not been fulfilled or responded to my knowledge, from the agencies. From the electeds. 2, we are having that new Midtown business initiative by the PD.
Business recovery.
Yeah, business recovery initiative meeting with with Lowell, you'll be there, and Joe and Maria and a handful of other folks.
That's tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow, right. So I think we can definitely raise it there as well. And so I just want to put those 2 other things out there.
Okay. I got 3 more hands, Betty, Bert, and Dale. Do you guys have specific thoughts on this, or is this something that we need to be addressing now, or?
Well,
I don't want to I'm trying to avoid going in circles about this.
I know, just a very quick thought, like the picture of the people in Brooklyn with the mayor there and some other key people. I don't know how they pulled that off, but I wish that we could do something like that. Maybe it's for some new safety committee, but I would like us to somehow pull whatever strings we need to get a high level presence and press conference or something to get things happening.
Going, yes.
Okay. Bert?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment on our process. It's different comment than I would have made 5 minutes ago. And I appreciate how our conversation has moved from one of, we don't have kind of a bureaucratic response. Well, we don't have a committee specifically for this, so we can't address it, to
Never that we couldn't address it. It's Bert, I'm going to take issue with that. It's not that we couldn't address it. I said most of it has been going to the working group, either housing or working group.
Yeah, he's going to give you a compliment. I think he's going to
never that we couldn't address
it. It wasn't getting enough highlight. It wasn't getting enough sunshine. It wasn't getting enough spotlight. Okay. And I think we've moved to a place where this is an important issue to stand by itself, forget about whatever categories we have and whatever letters we've written. There are ways we can attend to this. And now we're coming up with, Jesse mentioned, what.
That's fine. I appreciate
you're going to
what
be
you said.
adding Joe and Maria tomorrow. This is all very, very good. Moving in that direction. That's all I want to say.
All right, Dale. What does the kitty want?
I don't know. I mean, she's just super needy today. She wants everything all at once at all times. But who doesn't? I just want to say that I think there have been intimations or like inferences that perhaps the police department isn't stepping up in this area for us. And I would tend to agree. And I think that's politics because it's election season and the police department wants us scared. and they want us needing them, and they want us to throw more money at them, even though nobody's ever defunded them once. So I think there is a political dynamic to this, and it's the police department unions working us over by not responding properly to these instances, or not doing their jobs, and creating an environment where, you know, stuff like this, allowing an environment to they're cultivating the environment that this can happen, and they're doing it for a reason. I'm speaking out of hat, but that's what I had to say.
Okay.
Lowell, I'm sorry, let me just wrap
Sure,
up.
Leslie.
I'm sorry, I do agree partially with Dale saying, but Dale, they are doing it in other neighborhoods, you know, so I think it's where the political push is sometimes,
Yeah.
where the NYPD then responds, which is, it's, you kind of figure that. I just would like, if we're not going to get the political push here, then let's make it a community push. And I think then, okay, then we'll take the bull by the horns and let's see what we can do about it. But Dale, I think there is truth to it, but I do think they are kind of go where they're led a little bit.
All right, we just agreed that we're going to have a formational meeting.
I agree with that generally.
All right, we just agreed we're going to have a public safety working group, formational meeting. I think we now have an agenda for that. And I think anything else on this should be deferred to that instead of to exec. Because this is the kind of conversation we should be having behind closed doors as a working group until we take a full board position.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, by the way, for indulging me on that.
And anyone who has not read Phil O'Brien over the last couple of days, I suggest you do so.
Do we need some kind of resolution to create a task force or working group?
No, I think I have the authority to create a working group all by myself.
Just go with it.
It now exists. Anything else? Because I really wanted us to get in out of an hour and we missed it, but that's okay.
Pretty good, though.
Goodbye.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn then.
Adjourn.
Thank you all for coming.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye, everyone. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Oh,